July 19, 2025. The world is on edge. A chilling message from the Kremlin, Russia, threatens a preemptive strike against the United States. This isn't a random outburst. It's a calculated response to President Trump's new plan to cripple Russia's war economy. The threat is direct, unambiguous, and timed to maximum effect. Could we be on the verge of a new Pearl Harbor, a surprise attack to paralyze a superpower? Russian officials speak not in diplomatic terms, but in the language of war, red lines, catastrophic consequences. Washington's strategy is clear: cut off Russia's oil revenue to halt its war in Ukraine. Moscow's response: push us, and we'll strike back with everything we have. The Pearl Harbor comparison is apt, an overwhelming preemptive blow to neutralize a perceived existential threat. But today, the stakes are nuclear. Both nations possess the world's largest arsenals. A preemptive strike would almost certainly trigger global catastrophe. The world watches, waiting to see if this is just rhetoric or a prelude to action. Tension is palpable in capitals worldwide. Every move is scrutinized. Is this a desperate bluff or a genuine threat from a regime with nothing left to lose? The coming days will be critical. The actions of President Trump and Russian leaders will decide if this crisis de-escalates or spirals out of control. The world stands on a knife's edge, haunted by the memory of how quickly the unthinkable can become reality. The stakes have never been higher. Dmitry Medvedev, once a moderate, now the Kremlin's chief hawk, delivers the threat. As deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, his words are official policy. Medvedev warns, if the US enforces its new oil sanctions, what he calls an economic blockade, Russia will consider it an act of war, justifying a first strike. His transformation mirrors Russia's own hard turn over the past decade. His rhetoric is designed to instill fear, fracture the West, and remind the world of Russia's nuclear might. The desperation is clear: the war in Ukraine has become a costly quagmire, and US policies are seen as a direct threat to Russia's survival. Medvedev frames the situation in black and white: destroy us economically and we'll respond militarily. This narrative justifies future aggression to Russians and remaining allies. Unlike past threats, this one is specific, tied directly to the US's 50-day plan to halt Russian oil sales. That specificity makes it more credible and more dangerous. Medvedev draws a red line: escalate sanctions, and Russia will escalate militarily. He shifts blame, saying any war will be the West's fault for pushing too far. It's a high-stakes gamble, a dangerous game of chicken on the world stage. The message is clear: Russia is prepared to risk everything. The world must decide if it's a bluff or a real threat. The next moves will shape the future. The stakes are global. Behind the threats, Russia's military reality is sobering. Years of war in Ukraine have decimated its forces and equipment. Elite units are gone, replaced by old Soviet gear and poorly trained conscripts. Precision weapons are depleted, and sanctions make replacements nearly impossible. Russia's military is isolated. China offers economic support but no direct military aid. Without China's backing, Russia faces NATO alone. Its nuclear arsenal remains a threat, but conventional power is blunted. The war exposed deep weaknesses in command, logistics, and technology. The bear still growls, but its strength is mauled. This gap between rhetoric and reality is crucial. Is Medvedev's warning a prelude to war or a desperate bluff? The answer may determine the world's fate. As Russia's military bleeds, its economy is in crisis. Sanctions and war costs have created a perfect storm: soaring inflation, rising prices, and declining public services. The initial patriotic fervor has faded, replaced by weariness and anxiety. Protests and strikes, though suppressed, are growing. Oil and gas once fueled stability, but sanctions are tightening. The new US plan targets shipping and insurance, threatening Russia's economic core. The social contract, prosperity in exchange for political control, is breaking down. Medvedev's threats serve to distract from domestic woes and rally the population. But economic pain is harder to hide than foreign enemies. A crumbling economy could spark unrest the Kremlin can't control. President Trump's administration launches a 50-day countdown, not a military ultimatum but an economic one. The plan: make Russian oil unsellable by blacklisting any company involved in trade above the G7 price cap. This forces buyers, shippers, and banks worldwide to choose: Russian oil or access to the global financial system. The window gives time to unwind deals, but the message is clear: no more half measures. The noose is about to tighten, threatening Russia's economic survival. India and China, key buyers, must now reconsider their positions. Most companies will likely comply with US sanctions to avoid financial ruin. The countdown is the direct trigger for Medvedev's threat. The Kremlin sees this as economic warfare, not just sanctions. Each day brings Russia closer to collapse, or desperate action. The world watches. Will this end the war, or provoke a military confrontation? The clock is ticking. The US-Russia standoff sends shockwaves worldwide. Europe stands with the US but fears escalation and economic fallout. India and China, Russia's economic lifelines, face tough choices. India seeks assurances, quietly weighing risks of US sanctions. China, pragmatic and deeply tied to global trade, is unlikely to openly defy US penalties. Both may quietly reduce Russian oil purchases to protect their own interests. Russia faces growing isolation as its key partners hedge their bets. The threat of losing access to the global financial system is a powerful deterrent. If India and China back away, Russia's economic pressure will intensify. Medvedev's threats signal desperation as the world turns its back. The Kremlin's strongest weapon is information control. State media spins hardship as heroism. Russia against a hostile West. Rising costs are blamed on Western sanctions, not the war. Independent media is silenced, the internet is censored. Most Russians hear only the official narrative. Russia is winning, the West is to blame. But economic pain and military losses are harder to hide. Cracks are appearing in public belief. The battle for Russian hearts and minds is as critical as the one in Ukraine. Is Russia's threat real or a colossal bluff? The truth lies in dangerous brinkmanship. Russia lacks the conventional power or support for a sustained war with the US and NATO. The threat is psychological warfare, meant to sow fear and division in the West. By invoking nuclear catastrophe, Moscow hopes to force a retreat on sanctions. But dismissing the threat entirely would be naive. Desperate leaders can act irrationally. The new sanctions threaten the regime's survival, raising the risk of miscalculation. The next 50 days are crucial. Will the economic gambit force negotiation or push Russia over the edge? The line between bluff and catastrophe is thin. Understanding these forces is vital. The world's future hangs in the balance.